If you see an experienced Linux user typing away at the command line, or you see a snippet of bash commands in a tutorial, a guide, or documentation, it can seem like memorizing the ins and outs of commands and options is the only way to be productive and understand what's going on. But everybody starts somewhere, and even experienced command line users don't memorize everything. Albert Einstein is credited with saying he didn't carry certain technical information in his mind because it was readily available in books. And as with so much information in programming and the technical world, it's just not practical to try to memorize all of the syntax and options of command line tools. Of course, it's important to learn and remember the basics, but while we're getting started, we only need to remember a few commands. The first one is man, which stands for the manual pages. We can think of the man pages as a technical reference book for our Linux distribution. If we know the name of a command, we can find out a wealth of information about what it does, what options it provides, and what arguments it takes. Let's go back to the terminal. I'll clear the screen by typing the command clear. Let's look something up in the man pages. To do that, I'll type man, followed by the command name. Earlier we saw the command ls, so let's look that up. I'll write man, ls, and then press enter. And here I can see some information about the ls command. I can see that it's for listing directory contents, and I get a quick overview of how to use the command in the synopsis section. To use this command, I'd write ls, followed by any of the options I need, and the file or directory path that I want to use. The terms in square brackets are optional. In this case, that means I can just use the ls command by itself to see the default output listing of the directory. Here below the description header, there's a little bit more detailed information about the command, including its default behavior and usage notes. And below that is a listing of the options that the command takes. Occasionally, you'll come across a command that takes no options, but that's fairly rare. Here at the bottom of the screen, I see a little status bar that tells me my cursor is on line 1 of this document, and it offers some options to help or quit. I'll press the H key to show the help, and I want to direct your attention to the section called Moving. Two of the most useful key commands here are F and B, for moving forward and backward. There's also Z or Z and W, which move in a similar way, but I find that I accidentally hit Q when I use those, which quits the Man Pages tool when I mean to hit W. We can also move up and down by a line with the up and down arrows, and we can move down a screenful at a time with the spacebar. There's a whole lot of information here, which you can page through hitting F to go forward and B to go back up. If you're feeling adventurous, you can explore that on your own time. It's worth noting that these navigation commands are actually those for another tool called less, but we'll get to that later on. There are a lot of ways to use the man pages very, very efficiently, but for our purposes here, paging up and paging down is just fine. I'll press Q to exit the help and go back to the man page for ls. Here I can use the F and B keys we saw before to move through the information. Notice that the status bar at the bottom is showing me where my cursor is, and therefore what section of the document I'm seeing in terms of lines of text. Though right now I'm not looking up anything in particular, so I'll press Q to quit. It's important to be familiar with the man command as we go along, in case there's anything you want to look up. Many commands also have an option called help, which provides a brief amount of information about them. However, they usually refer you to the man pages for more detailed documentation. You can see if a command you're using has this feature available by typing --help after a command. For example, I'll write ls--help. This is an example of a long option. I'll press enter. Here in my terminal, I can scroll up and down with the mouse if the output is very long. Once again, I'll clear the screen with the clear command. There's another command that's useful when we're working in bash, and that's just help by itself. As we get into working with the bash shell in particular later on, the help tool can act as a handy reminder for the syntax of some bash-specific commands. But what if we don't know the name of a command that we're looking for? In that case, we can use another command called apropos. Apropos searches a list of installed programs that can be used as commands and searches their descriptions for text that you provide as an argument. So if I wanted to find out what can list things, I could type apropos list. and see a number of results that match that word. I'll take some time to look through these results, and here's a command that can list directory contents. It's ls. Searching for commands this way can be time-consuming, but if you know what you need to do, but not the command to do it, apropos can be helpful. Using the documentation isn't something that's only for beginners. Advanced users of the command line use documentation often, both to refresh their knowledge and to find out the specifics of how things work, in much the same way that writers and other professionals frequently turn to a dictionary, a thesaurus, or other reference materials. It's very useful, both as a beginner and as you become more advanced, to keep a notebook of commands and tasks you find yourself using often, and of things that took you a while to figure out. That way, you can build your own custom documentation to supplement the built-in documentation.